Awesome. So welcome back to this software development lab. As we had looked at, we had started creating our application. We started with creating our database. We created stored procedures on the database. Of course, after designing the tables, then we went ahead and created um, the um, um, the what do we call them? The REST APIs, which connect to our backend. Of course, we created the classes. So from the classes, we're able to now go ahead and invoke the classes. Then we can be able to perform some functionality. So moving forward, I want to show us how we can do a sample application, specifically how we can be able to create a mock up side of what we had. Like if you look at Expedia, for example, expedia.com. So what you'll find is, just hold on a second. Mike? Yes, Mike? Kuchama? Yes, sorry about that. It was an urgent call that I needed to attend to. But nonetheless, as I was explaining, when you come to this Expedia site, you'll see you have a user interface here where you can type something, you have date pickers here, and all this kind of stuff. So this can be really anything. It can be an app, it can be it can be a desktop application, it can be a mobile app, it can be a PWA. Actually, this as it is a PWA. So if I go to inspect here, and I say mobile, so you'll see, well, they have not done a good job on the PWA. That's terrible. Yeah, yeah, it's a PWA. So you can see it's not very bad in terms of searching for a mobile app and all that. So I can actually convert this to an mobile app. So this is really what we are going to try and cover. But of course, I'm going to focus mostly today on how to set up the environment, how we can be able to connect back and forth, and that kind of stuff. There is a lot of technology out there that you can be able to use to achieve all this. I wanted to use React, but I also think that learning vanilla JavaScript is good. But I'm also very comfortable with jQuery, which makes it very easy to fetch data back and forth. But really, it's not important the tools that I'm going to use to achieve the task. What's important is how exactly I'm going to achieve the task. Because I can use vanilla JavaScript to get the data back and forth and be able to manipulate by DOM, but I prefer to use jQuery instead to make it a little bit easy for um, for you to be able to see how that works out. So my technology stack would be basically HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But of course, because vanilla JavaScript is a bit, yeah, yes, you can use the fetch API to get the data, but of course, you have to do other configuration for the fetch API. So I'll use a library called jQuery just to help me bring the data back and forth and manipulate my jQuery, my web pages much easily. So that's what we want to do for today. I want to show us how we can be able to save the country and display the records really without struggling a lot. We can use whatever is actually available in the market for free. There is Bootstrap for styling. Then we have HTML and CSS, and of course JavaScript. And of course Font Awesome. So all these are Font Awesome. So I'll probably just use these things to show us exactly how this works out. So that is going to be our practice for today. So again, I'll jump straight into our folder where we are saving our work. So I'll open that folder. I think we call it Expedia. Expedia, it's here, it's here. So I want to work on this. So on my Expedia here, what I would do is I already have my database and I already have my models and I already have my controllers, not a big deal. So I'll create folders here for CSS. I'll create another folder for JavaScript, or let's call it JS. Well, okay, CSS was supposed to be a folder, not a file. I don't know why it's taking too long, and I'm hoping it's still recording. Yeah, it's still recording. So I have JS, so I can create here a folder here called CSS. Then I can create another folder for my images, and well, I can create what else? Well, it's a bit slow, but let me give it time to do this. By the way, you don't necessarily need to create the folders here. You can actually go where the directory is, then you create your files from there. So let me say that I want to add a country. I'm not going to do validation for now. I'm just going to create a user interface for adding countries. So as I've mentioned, I'll need several things over here. For styling purposes, I'll use Bootstrap. It makes it so much easy to style my pages. I don't need to use vanilla CSS from the ground up, even though it will be good for you to use vanilla JavaScript. But again, you can use Bootstrap for that purpose. So to start us off, I will come online here. I'll close this and I'll look for Bootstrap. 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 Okay. So for Bootstrap, I'll come here to download the Bootstrap. And probably I want to use version 4 because I'm sure it doesn't have issues. You can use version 5 if you want, but I'll use version 4 for my case. Then I can come to download here. So it's just one file that you're going to need. Two files: the Bootstrap file, the CSS file, and the JavaScript file. So I'm thinking, has it downloaded it? Has it downloaded Bootstrap? Not yet. So download this. Why isn't it downloading? Oh, so they're here. So it's saying there is a CSS bundle and a JavaScript bundle. So I think this download should have just start download directly. At least that's what I'm used to. So I'll just download this. So this is Bootstrap. So I'll basically open it where it is. I'll extract. That's 4.6. You can see I was using an older version. That's 4.6. So I'll extract this one to Bootstrap 4.6. The distribution. So I'll replace all of them and I'll open. Now here the only thing you need are two files. I basically just need the CSS, the JavaScript file. This is the bootstrap.min, this minified file. This is all I need. You can use all the others, but really this is what all I need, these two. And again, actually, I only need this one unless I want to use other libraries for doing other things, then I'll need the mapping file. Like if I'm going to use Node.js and all that, then I can add the mapping file. But since I'm going to use vanilla JavaScript, I'll just pick this file over here, right? So I'll go back to my files system where I'm storing my uh, htdocs, XAMPP htdocs, where physically my files are. Then I'll go to Expedia here. So inside Expedia, I'm going to go, that was a JavaScript file, so I'll put it inside here. So that's bootstrap.minified. Then I'll go back to the bootstrap itself. Then I'll just get the CSS file. So I already did there. Bootstrap CSS, this one. I can get the minified one because it's much, much smaller. So I just pick this one. I'll copy it. Then I'll just add it to my CSS folder, which is here. This is supposed to help me style very, very easily. So I don't need to struggle a lot with styling. So those two are enough to help me do my styling. Now, so I don't need these bootstrap files anymore. So I just close them up. And if I come back to my application over here, you'll see inside JS, I have bootstrap, and inside CSS, I have the bootstrap CSS file. That is all I need. Then also, as part of my styling or whatever I want to do, I'll probably want to add jQuery. So just come and say jQuery. You don't need to use jQuery, you can use vanilla JavaScript, but I prefer to use jQuery because it's much, much easier in terms of manipulating the DOM. So here I just open the uncompressed version. Actually, you can use the compressed version, but I would like to use the uncompressed version because sometimes I like to debug and I want to see what they have written. So this is jQuery. I'll just right click and I'll say save as, or you can copy and paste this file in a jQuery file. Not a big deal. It all depends on how you want to go about it. So I'll go to C, XAMPP, htdocs, then I'll pick Expedia, then I go to JavaScript files, then I'll put my jQuery there. You can put the version so that you know which version you are working with, 3.71. It's usually good sometimes because when you have bugs, you might want to troubleshoot what's working for you. And I think that is all I need for purposes of. So I have my jQuery here. Basically, that is all I need for purposes of showing us how to work with this file. So now, because you're doing MVC, now I want to create my views. So my views, I can create a folder called views, but let me just put the files outside here. I'm assuming that these are going to be public files that are going to be accessible. But of course, later on in the future, we can decide to either place them in an admin folder. Then from the admin folder, we can be able to go ahead and
Excuse me, sir.
go
We
ahead.
are unable to see your screen and also there is no audio.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. The audio is there now. Is the audio there now?
Yes.
And can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can see it.
Yeah, thank you. So, as I was mentioning, I was just trying to explain the technology stack that I want to use. And to make your work easier, I said I'm going to introduce three things. I'm going to use Bootstrap for styling purposes. It makes it very easy for you to style your HTML documents. Then I was demonstrating how we download Bootstrap. So I simply said you open your Chrome window, then you go to Bootstrap, then from Bootstrap, you come to downloads. And from downloads, I said I would prefer to use version 4.6 or any version 4 that is there. Then after version 4, you can simply come and say download. Then you'll be presented with this icon over here where you can just download and extract the files. Then you copy the files, two of them, inside your project. So there's the CSS file, then there is also the JavaScript files as far as Bootstrap is concerned. Those are the only two files that you need inside that entire extraction. or interpolation. Then the other thing I said we need is jQuery 3.71. jQuery 3, jQuery specifically, I think the version won't matter because I just want something that will help me to manipulate the DOM very, very easily. Because I already know how to use CSS, I want something that enables me to just do query selectors directly using CSS, even though JavaScript itself is capable of doing it at the moment. But I prefer to use jQuery because of its flexibility in terms of how you map actions and things like that. So you're going to see how that works out. You can still do it with vanilla JavaScript, but for me personally, I think that's going to be quite a tall order to achieve. Then, since and I was also giving instructions on how you can be able to download jQuery, I simply say come to the browser, type jQuery, then say download here. Then from the download part, you'll be asked which file do you want to download. Usually I like picking this first one, the compressed version, because sometimes I just want to see where errors are coming from in the event that there's a problem. So I just download this as source code as it is. Right click, then say save as. Then I'll save it inside where my project is located and call it jQuery 3.71. Then I just save it from there. As simple as that. So that is how you download jQuery. Now the other thing you need is Font Awesome because sometimes is as you can see when you're creating our Expedia app, there's a lot of iconography being used. So you can use Font Awesome, you can use Box Icon, you can really use any icon library that you want to use. But what I'm trying to say is I want to show you with an example of how you can actually be able to achieve some of these things. So for my example purposes, I'm going to use Font Awesome. You can use you can use Box Icon. You can use, by the way, even Bootstrap has icons. So if you say Bootstrap icons, you'll still be able to get quite a number of icons as far as it's concerned. So if you're using Bootstrap and you decide to use Bootstrap icon, well, that's also okay. But again, as I said, I like using Font Awesome. I say they are better icons. They are good, if you ask me. And well, the name is quite large. The library is quite large, even though Bootstrap icons are equally not as bad as you can see. They they are quite a number, but again, as I said, I like Font Awesome. So for you to use Font Awesome icons, so for you to use Font Awesome icons, simply open a browser window and go to Font Awesome. I know currently they are on version 7. I like using a version that is slightly lower than what is there. Actually, version 7 just came out a couple of days ago. So I'm still on version 5. So you can use version 7 if you want. That's what is there. For me, I prefer to use version 5. So for you to download Font Awesome, again, just come to Font Awesome, then you come to downloads. So you can see they actually have quite a lot of icons. That's why I like the presentation their presentation. So you can I don't need to sign in. I just want to download. So I'll come to start. Then I can come to um, download here. Then I don't want version 7. I want actually version 5. Again, it will depend on what you want to use. Pick the free ones for the web, then I'll download that Font Awesome icon pack. So if you want to buy, you can buy, but of course they come with a lot of free icons. So again, I'll show us how to use them so that now we appreciate how this works out. Okay, so it's finished downloading. So probably, well, let me just give it a couple of seconds. I don't know why it's taking too long to show me the files, but nonetheless, let's allow it to actually do that on its own. Okay, it's done. So I'll open the folder. I will right click and I will say extract. So I just put it Font Awesome inside a folder called from awesome, extract. So it should be able to extract for me all the icons. I'm just trying to show you how to use them. Depending on whatever you want to create, you can create a website, you can create an app. Really, you can do anything with these things. Whatever I'm just showing you is how to put it together. How you're going to put it together might be something that is based on your preference. But trust me, I'm going to show you the best practices so that now, when it comes to creating a project, it makes it a hell lot easier to go around that. So let's just go. Let me just give it a couple of seconds so that it's able to extract these icons for us to use. In a minute, you're going to see why all these things are important because they make it a hell lot easier to design a web page rather than using vanilla JavaScript. I would have preferred to say use React, as I had mentioned, but again, I think giving you the feel of vanilla JavaScript is a much better experience. Yeah, because there's certain things that you might not be able to do with React directly, and if you can't do it with React directly and you don't know how to use JavaScript, then that also becomes a headlock for you. So just finish the loading, then we can carry on from that. I think it's not going to take much longer than this, so we can be able to move forward. Now, okay, I think let me let it finish so that now we can go step by step. I will try to edit these gaps in the video so that the gaps are not there, or maybe to fast forward some of these activities, probably to make it a little bit easier for you to follow up the video once it has been loaded. Well, I don't think I need to do that anyway, but because it's just raw data and it's just content that I'm giving you for your revision, probably I might not spend a lot of time doing the editing. But nonetheless, let's see how that turns out. Okay, still processing. I don't know, it's taking too long. So I think it's downloading the license.txt. So most likely, actually, I think it should be close to done, even though it's telling me that there's not much happening. So um, I'll replace those files. I think probably that was the challenge that it was looking at. There were some certain files, probably maybe I was working on Fontosam the other time to demonstrate other classes, and I left remnants of those files in that folder, but nonetheless, that's okay. So this should take about another 20 seconds or so to complete. So let's just give it that. We're almost done. All right. So once this is done, it's going to open this folder for me because it's a Windows machine. And it's only once you're done, you open the folder. So I'll come inside here. I only need two files inside here. One, I need this folder called web fonts. Because I'm going to design on the web, I need this web fonts. That's the only file that I need, and probably the CSS that allows me to load the web fonts. So I'll pick this web fonts folder over here, and I will paste it on the root of my directory. So I'll come to my project here, Expedia. Then inside here, I'll paste the web fonts, paste them there. Then I will go back to where I have extracted those files. I'll come inside JavaScript, not JavaScript, but CSS rather. I'll come inside CSS. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know why my machine is. I don't know why. Okay, just hold on a second. Just hold on a second. So as I was saying, the only file you need is this all dot. The only file you need is this all.js, this one, or you can use the minified version. So I'll pick this, I'll copy it, and I'll also paste it inside where my JavaScript files are. So a couple of things I've added. I've added Bootstrap, jQuery, and Font Awesome. That is all I need for purposes of this practice. Cool. So now let's get to work and see how we can use this to put this app together. So what I'm going to do is go back to my code window and I'll create here a file and I'll call it maybe say country.html. I can use PHP, I can really use anything to be able to access it, but I'm going to use HTML so that I demonstrate for you that actually, even if I was writing PHP, I don't necessarily need to have PHP. So I've used PHP on my backend, but I want to use HTML on the front. So HTML. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put Emmet and press enter. Then I'll say this is Expedia. Then I'll say manage. What are we managing? We're managing countries like that. So to manage the countries, what I'll need to do first of all, I'll probably create the navigations much later. I just want to focus on adding countries and specifically how I can be able to 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 show alerts and things like that. So again, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say I'm going to get a div with an ID of container fluid, which means I want it to not cover the whole screen, but just be somewhat leave out a few spaces on the edge of my screen. That's what container fluid would do. Then after that, I'll create a table here. I can put a table with a list of all the countries and probably how many airports they have and things like that. And things like that. So I can create a table here. Then I'll give it a class of table. I'll make the table small and I can make the table also striped. So these are Bootstrap classes. That's why I was installing Bootstrap so that I don't necessarily need to do the styling on my own. So then I can also say it's a table hover, which means that whenever you hover on the table, it will be able to change colors back and forth. Then after I get the table, I'll create the T head. Then from the T head, I'll create at least 4 table rows or maybe 5. The table headers. The first header will contain the number. The other will contain the country ID, country name. Then the other one will have probably the number of cities in that country. Then I'll have the number of airports in that country and the number of airlines in that country, something like that. Then probably I can have another one for editing the country. So this one will be for editing the country. So I'll put a comment here. So for editing the country. So we want to do the CRUD operations as far as countries are concerned. That's going to be the table. Then from there, I'm going to create the table body. This is pure HTML. There is nothing here that's JavaScript. This is pure HTML, and I'm sure you've done HTML. So I'm just creating a division with a table. It's going to be container flow, which means it's not going to cover the screen. And Bootstrap will try to make it responsive. So if you're accessing it on a mobile device and all that, Bootstrap will try to do that work for you, so that you don't have to do it by hand. That's why I have picked it for this particular practice. So if you want to test this live, I'll simply say here, go live. Now, there's some extensions I put on my Visual Studio Code, so you can see, well, I have it's not quite what I expected it to be, but that is because I have not linked my Bootstrap file within my document. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to come back here, then I'm going to show them side by side, like that. So as I am applying, if, as I am designing my code, you're also able to see what the output looks like. So again, this is an extension. This live server is a Visual Studio extension, which you can just go to extensions over here. Then you search for live server. Then you install it. Live server, this one here. Then you just install it. Then you can now be able to serve your HTML pages live if you need to. That is if you want to. In my case, probably I use it all the time. That's why I need it. So the only thing I need to do here is I needed to link my files up here. So I need to link my font awesome and also my bootstrap file. So I'll come to this line over here, or actually even after title, then I'll say link, and I want to link a CSS file, which is here. Then the file will actually be CSS. Then inside CSS, I have Bootstrap. So after Bootstrap, I also want to link Font Awesome. So link CSS, then I'll say CSS, then Font Awesome. Actually, it's all, eh? CSS, it should be all. Where did I place it? It should actually be there. Okay, I think I placed it in the wrong. Oh, so sorry. I copied the wrong file. I don't need the JavaScript file for I don't need the JavaScript file for Font Awesome, even though you can still load with JavaScript. I needed the CSS file for it. So for Font Awesome, which is here, I needed the CSS file, which is this one. All this is all this is what I needed, not the JavaScript file. So I can come back to my application. Sorry about that confusion. Then I'll put my um, font awesome file here. You can use JavaScript to load it, but I prefer to use CSS because CSS is much easier to use in terms of classes. So again, I'll close that and I'll come here and try and say this is all the CSS. So that is actually okay. So I need to have this. So you can see automatically it has tried to format my to format my my table, so it looks a bit nicer, even though the table is much bigger. So the only thing I need to say was, yeah, I think I've put it. It's a table with a class of table. Yeah, it looks okay. Why is the table much bigger? Well, I don't know why the table is much bigger, but it should look a little bit neater. Something like well, I'll not focus on that for now. Probably we can deal with that later. So I have the table head. So I have THH, okay? I think that is totally fine. Then of course I have the keyboard now. Down here, I will add a button, add a button for saving country. So, or adding a new country. So I'll come here and I'll say, I want to put up a button. It has a class of BTN. It's a small button. And it's going to be a success button, which means I want it to be green in color. These are just bootstrap classes, by the way. You can look them up if you want to see what each and every one of them does. Then of course I'm going to give my button an ID, say add new country, country like that. Then I can put some text here that says add new. Now what I'm using here is called Emmet. Emmet basically allows you to output some commands, and it makes it much easier for you to be able to um, to write HTML very fast. So I'll put that. Yeah, you should be able to access. So you can see it has created actually a button, and the button says add country. I think this one is zoomed, so let me reset it. Yeah, I think that's why it was looking a bit bigger. So I've reset it, so this is at 100%. Now, I want to add a font awesome icon on this button so that it has a plus. So to add a font awesome icon, I'll simply say I is for adding icons. If you're using box icons, you're using bootstrap icons, you'll most likely use I. Then you now just list the classes that you want to use. So I want to use font awesome solid. Then I want to use font awesome plus, something like that. That should be able to add a plus icon, as you can see over here. So you can see it's very easy to be able to use some of these libraries just to be able to give effect to your application as you move along. So that's why I've decided to pick them because they are free, they are available, and they're very, very easy to use. And the documentation is stupendous. You have quite a large community using this. So getting stuck is not going to be something that's going to be very, very easy. So that's the first part that we have managed to do. Now the other thing I want to do is if I click on this country, I want to pop up a model that tells me enter the name of a country or edit a country that's existing. So what I'm going to do after this, just after this body here, I'm going to add a new model. So after this container, I want to add a model here. So add a model for country details. Country details, like that. So model, you can come to Bootstrap here, then you say Bootstrap model. Bootstrap model. I don't need to type it by hand because it's already done. So I'll pick Bootstrap model here. I just pick the structure because it's already done. And of course, we'll explain how it works. So a model is something that looks like this. So it's a box that pops up. It has a title. It has where you can put your things. Then it has buttons below. So what I can do here is to come here and just copy this code. Well, I can just copy directly. Not a big deal. So I'll just copy this model over here. Then I'll style it nicely. So I have the model. Then I have the model itself. I have the content. Then I have the header. Then I have the body. Then this is the body. Sorry. Then I have the footer, like that. So you can see, well, I missed one. I think I missed one. I need to push this one inside. These two inside. Yeah. So usually want to see where this one starts and ends, where it starts and ends, and so on and so. So it's just a way of creating the model. Your concern basically is to give it an ID, which is country details model, something like that. Then you can give it here country details. So I don't need to create it from the ground up unless you want to master this code. It's going to give you that title. This X button is this button over here. So you can also see what it does. Yeah, so model body, this is where we're going to put our country. Then we have buttons here for close and save changes. But of course, you don't want these buttons to look like this. So I want this one to be success. Because I'm using Bootstrap, I want it to be green in color, so success. I also want it to be small. So I'll make it small. I'll also give it an ID, which is save country, like that. So here I also make it small, but I want to make this one red, but when you focus on it. So I'll say outline danger. Outline means it's going to be red when you hover over it. Otherwise, if I just put danger, it's going to be red throughout. Then I don't need to give it an ID. So here I can put a font awesome icon. I can simply say put an icon, a font awesome, solid, font awesome, save. Maybe make it a little bit large, font awesome, large, something like that. Then for the close, I probably want to make it a times. Sorry, LG. Well, I don't know why Emmet is not picking. I don't know why Emmet is not picking. Let me try again. Yeah, for some reason Emmet is not picking. Let me check. Okay. So I said you put an icon, then you put font awesome, um, solid. Well, you can write it like I. You can put I with a class. I don't know why Emmet is not working. Or font awesome solid, font awesome, save, font awesome, large. Then you can close your eye. Ideally, that's what the image should have done for me. I don't know why it's not picking it up. I'll just leave a space between that and that. Then I can copy this icon up to this point, like that. Then I'll paste that over here, but instead of save, I'll say times, like that. Okay. So now I have my icon. So inside here, I want to put error. So I want to give a div with an ID of errors or notifications. Let me not call them error, let me call them notifications. Well, I think today my machine is somewhat on a spree that it doesn't want to type, it doesn't want to complete. Okay. So for some reason, it doesn't want to complete the code, but then again, it happens sometimes. Now, the other thing I need to do is to add another div with now where I'm going to put the country details. So I'll put here a form group. Okay, this is going to be a very big problem for me today because I'm used to typing it as shortcut. Let me see. Dot form group. Is there something running in the background that's so much? I don't know. Probably something that is consuming so much data or so much space, so much resources in the background, such that so much my name is not accessible well. So form group. Oh dear. So I have to type it by hand. So I'll say give me a div with a class of form group, like that. Then I have to close that form group, that div rather. So that's what I was saying. If I have Emmet, it makes it much easier for me to just type the shortcut and it's able to complete it for me. So inside the form group, I'll create a label. The label is going to be for country name. But of course, before this, I can maybe say I need to get another input, which is going to be hidden. Why I want it to be hidden is because I want it to have the country ID. So I'll give it country ID, like that. So I'll say, well, why didn't you pick that? Input hidden country ID. Yeah, I think my machine today is somewhat frustrated, but country ID. I don't know it's taking forever to pick. Oh my god. Okay, you can type it by hand. You can say give an input of type hidden. Then it has an ID of country ID and a name of country name. Sorry, name of country name. Then it has a value of 0 by default because we're going to use it to add an existing country like that. So I should put an input that is hidden. You're not going to see this input, but it's going to be there so that it enables us to be able to get the ID of the country when you're editing. Otherwise, by default, it is 0. It means you're going to be creating that. So the label here will be country name. So after that, I'm going to give here an input of type text. Let me try again if it's going to help me. I'll give it an ID of country name. Then I'll say it is a form control and it's a small form. Yeah, something like that. So that should be able to fill it for me. So I'll give the country name. Ideally, I'm supposed to be typing all this, but Emmet is helping me to be able to shorten what I am typing. So that should be able to give me a model that has a place where I can put the country name. It has a place where I can have my notifications, and then from there I can now be able to write my code to be able to now add, edit, or even delete a country or something of the sort. So let's see how we can call this model. So would be what's going to happen would be I want to go back to my code over here. Then I'll come to the JavaScript files over here and I'll create a file here called country.js. So all my program logic is going to come inside here, inside country.js here. So inside country.js here, first of all, I'll make sure that in my page where I am loading this content over here, I want to be able to load my JavaScript files. So I'll put here a script. My machine is somewhat misbehaving. I don't know why. So okay, I can type the whole of it script. Then I can give a source of the script. Would be go inside a JavaScript folder and get me. First of all, I'll start with jQuery, which is that. So I'll say jQuery 3.71.js. That's the name of the file. That will allow me to increase. That will allow me to add jQuery, and of course, I have to close my script. So that's the reason why I like using Emmet, is because it will be able to fill in these details for me. Then I can copy this file, this line rather, then just paste it down here. And for some strange reason, okay, so I can paste it down here. I'm not pasting. Okay, too bad. So let me just type it out. Well, it's copied. So after jQuery, I'll put bootstrap. Bootstrap.minified.javascript. Then now I can go ahead and include my country, which is country here, .js, something like that. So I have jQuery, Bootstrap, and country. I need these three JavaScript files so that now, since they're separate, they're just going to be bundled as part of this page when it is loading on the browser, and I'm able to access all the functionality. That's kind of like how any other technology works. If you're doing an Android application, you'll probably link libraries. Then when it's compiling, it's going to put the libraries together as a single file, then allows you to be able to go ahead and integrate a compiled file. So that's going to help me with that. Now I'll come to my country here, and this is where I want all the magic to happen. So because I'm using jQuery, I'm just going to tell it to wait until the document is ready, then it can be able to do its magic. So usually jQuery, you start with a dollar sign like that, or most people like to put jQuery. That's also how you can call it. But again, dollar sign is much easier to use as compared to this. So I'll just say that. So So jQuery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it jQuery. Listen when the document, which is my current page, when it is ready, which means everything has loaded, all the assets have been loaded. Then run the following function. So I can use an arrow function, but let me just use an anonymous function because another function look complicated. This is all you need. So I'm telling jQuery, when this document has finished loading everything, run this callback function. That is all. And this is standard JavaScript. So what do I want it to do? I want it to be able to, so when I come here, I want it to be able to define the model for the country. Then when I click on this button, the model shows up or pops up. So I'll declare some variables here. So I'll say a constant country model is equals jQuery get element with the ID, and I just need to get the ID of that model, which is this country details model here. So I'll put that. Then I also need to tell it the add new button. So add new country button. Add new country button. So again, jQuery pick an element with an ID. Then I'll pick the ID of this country button. So I'll come here. I'll come to the button, and I've given it the ID of. That is not the ID. That is for saving. The other one is add new country here. This is for this one. The other one is for saving. So add new country here. So I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. Then because the reason why I picked jQuery in the first place is because it's very easy to attach events. So I'll simply say this button, which I've defined as variable, dot. When you click on that button, then run the following function. jQuery is very synonymous with anonymous functions. So if this button is clicked, then run this function. That's basically what I'm telling you to do. And what does that function do? It will simply load this model. So I'll say this model dot model, then I just say show it. It's as simple as that. So that would mean that it just show up the model and not do anything else. So when I click on this, you can see now the model has come and now I can type the country details. Well, I think these buttons are a little bit too big, so I can go ahead and actually change their sizes. So I can come to this country over here. So for these buttons, I can add, oh, there was BTM. Then this one I also need to put button small. So when I click on this, I can see the buttons are much smaller. I have the icons, I have where I can tap the country name, and of course up here is where my errors are going to show. So now I have achieved so many things. I've created a user interface where I can display the countries that exist. I can be able to click on add button, then that add button will give me another separate interface that I can now be able to use to be able to add the country's details. So let's see how we can add the country's details using the API that we had created before. So a bit of validation, when I click on the save button, I'll check if the country is being provided. If not, I'll give you an error up here. I'll tell you, well, you have not provided me with the country name. Kindly please provide the country name. And then of course I can give you focus over here and that kind of stuff, right? So I'll come here, I'll declare this one as a variable, this one as also a variable, so that I'm able to access the contents of this and the contents of this. So up here, I'll come and say country. There are three actually. Country ID field is, I'll select by ID. Then I also say country name field. I'll also select with the ID like that. Then I have save country button. Then I'll also save that with that, something of the sort. So I'll just pick these values. Country ID is country ID like that. You can type it if you know. I think this is country name, and also now this is save country. Now I'll also need the notifications. I'll also pick an element by ID. You can see these are basically CSS selectors. This is how you select an ID with CSS. So if you know how to use CSS selectors, this would work out for you. So I'll pick notifications here. So now, of course, I will listen to when somebody clicks on save country, like that. So when you click on that button, I'll run the following function. It's very common with JavaScript. So the first thing I need to do is when I click on this and I click on this button, actually that would trigger it, only that you're not seeing anything. I'll need to check what is here. Then if there's nothing, then I'll show you an error up here. So I can declare a variable here. So constant country name. Remember, this country name field is the field itself. The country name is the value that's going to be typed inside there. So country name will be, I'll pick whatever is typed here. So like that. So when you click .val, it's going to pick whatever is in that box, whatever is in this box, and store it inside this variable name. Then of course now I can do my logic and say if country name is equals to blank, then these notifications dot html Then I'll simply say, usually we use alert. We don't use alert. We use okay. I don't use Bootstrap a lot, but let me just check. Bootstrap alerts. So alerts, alerts, alerts. Let me see how that works out. We can use a Bootstrap alert. Yeah. So we have alert primary. Yeah, alert, alert primary. That's what I was looking for. So I can say here, um, I'll put here a div with a class of alert, alert primary. Then I can output my text there. Please enter country name. Then I close the div like that. So that would allow me to be able to show, actually should be a div with this, yeah. That should allow me to show, please enter country name. Then of course, once that has been done, I can set focus on that field. So this field, just send the focus to it. So I'll pick this field, dot focus. That should focus on that field. So country name field dot focus. Now that is if it is blank. So if I click on this, um, while it's still refreshing, so if I click on this and I click on that, you'll see it tells me here, please enter country name. That is exactly what I have done here. Well, I can even make it interesting. I can even add an icon there if I want to, but you get the idea. I have been showing us how to achieve all these things as we move along. So I just want to show us how we can be able to actually implement it in actual case. So now, what if I start typing here Kenya? This one does not go away, but I would like it to go away. So what I'll do here is I'll pick on this country name field. Then I'll say when there is an input on it, which means somebody is typing, run the following callback function. Then I'll simply say whatever is in this notification, just set it to blank. Okay? Blank. So it means that as I start typing the name of the country, so if I say save, it tells there. So when I start typing Kenya, you can see that goes away. And that's how you create nice user experience as you move along. So that's good. Now, if the country name has been provided and I click on save, I need to call my API on the server and make sure that it is able to save the data or give me any errors that might come about. Okay. Now, because this is a bit I'll do it manually. Then of course we can refactor this code much later on. So otherwise, if the country was not blank, then what I would do is I would tell jQuery using its post method. I'll give it the URL where I want to post the data. This URL is going to go inside a folder called controllers. Then it will go for country operations. So I'll say go into a folder called controllers, then go into country operations.php, something of the sort. Then now I'll give it an array of the data that I want to send over. I want country ID and country name. Now this can be written like this and this. So if the two names are the same, if the variable that you're sending over is the same as the variable that you're using on JavaScript, then you don't need to have this portion. So that's why I usually like giving them similar names. same to what I was giving in the database as far as PHP was concerned with MySQL. So I like that. Now, because I didn't pick the country ID here, let me just pick country ID. Sorry, country ID. I'll put a comma here. So the country ID will pick from the country ID field the value that's going to be there, like that, right? So that should be allow me to pick the country ID. Then I have the country ID down here. So I said if they're the same, this is actually how you write them. But if they're the same, you don't need this portion. You can just remove this full column portion. So JavaScript will just automatically fill it for you. So when I say jQuery.post, I need to give it the URL where it should post the data that it's supposed to send over. Then of course, if everything is okay, it's going to give me back some feedback. Let me write it. So I'm going to run this callback function once everything is successful. And that function is going to come back with some data. Okay? Well, I don't need to add an arrow function over there. So I'll have it like that. Okay? So with that, it makes it easier for me now to be able to check which data came in. Okay? So again, that data that comes in, if the data is going to be a JSON object, well and good. If it's not a JSON object, it means that an error actually occurred. So we'll see how that works out. So ideally here, because I don't want to type a lot, I can just come to ChatGPT and I'll probably tell it to create for me, well, a new chat. Then I ask it JS function to check for JSON object, something like that. I don't need to write it by hand. So it's a very simple function like this. It's just an object, I'll give it a value, then it's going to return for me a JSON object. So I can copy this one and just paste it down here. So that will check for me if an object, if whatever I've given it is actually a JSON object, something of the sort. Okay? So this is pretty interesting. You can see it's very easy. You're just going to check the type of object, if it is an object, and if it is not null, and if it is not an array. So then it means it's a JSON object. So the only thing I'm going to say here is if is JSON object, the data that I have, which means that everything is successful because I'm expecting JSON back, then everything was successful. Otherwise, I'll now tell you an error occurred, and then I can be able to explain for you what that error really is. It's as simple as that. Now, the only problem with JavaScript sometimes is even if this data comes back as JSON and you passed it, you brought it back using post, it could come as a string. It looks like a JSON object, but it will be treated as a string. So in this regard, I just need to convert it back to a JSON object. So I'll simply say my data equals, then I'll pick the JSON function and I'll say pass the data like that. That will make sure that now this variable is actually a JSON object. The other thing I need to do is just to check if data, now I can access the properties, the status is equals to success. Then it means that it was successful. Then I'll output success message. Otherwise, I will check if data.status equals exists. So if it exists, then I'll also give you a message. In any other case, I'll give you an appropriate error. So if it is successful, I'll simply say this. I'll just change the notification to be green. If it's successful, I'll pick this and make it green. So alert success. Then I'll say country has been saved successfully. Then from there, I can actually clear the country field to allow you to add a new country. So the country name field here, I'll make it dot value is blank. Now, if it exists, I will tell you the country name already exists in the system, and therefore you need to just change it. So here I'll say this is not going to be success, it's going to be info. Country name already exists in the system. Then I'll just put you again, I'll focus here. So I can have that. I can allow you to focus so that I can create a new country. Don't know why my machine is so slow today. Even pasting is a bit of an issue, but I think let's give it. Okay, so country name field dot focus. Then also here will focus. Now, if everything is okay, then here, if everything is not okay, so if this is not going to be a JSON object, then I'll just pick this notification and say an error occurred, and I'll explain to you what error it is. So come here. Just a minute. So okay, so this one I'm going to use danger to make it red in color. Then I'll just say, and I can use a template string here. Template string is this backtick there. So the good thing with that, it allows you to be able to integrate text in other text. So it's called a template string. So I'll simply say here, um, sorry, an error occurred. Then the error would be the data that has been passed over from the server, something of that sort. Now this looks easy, but this is very powerful. We have achieved so many things with this code over here. So first and foremost, we have declared variables to pick elements from from our user interface. Then we are attaching events to these elements. Then now we are doing validation. Now we are sending data over the network, and we're getting back the feedback, and we're checking the feedback. Then we're checking the properties of the feedback and outputting the appropriate error as appropriate. This is how you actually write a real application. So I believe that everything here should be okay. If everything is fine, then this should work out just fine. Now, this is not going to be able to work out like this. So if I try this and I try to click on save, well, the JavaScript part is going to work. The parts that are not going to work is the website. The website is not going to work because it's going to expect that there is a server running on this port, which is actually not the case. So what I usually do is for testing HTML and CSS, that's fine. I would usually use this to design it. But for testing for backend functionality, this would not be able to work out. So what I do here is I discard this page. So this page disappears. Then I come back to this window over here and I pick my page and I say open with, then I can pick, well, it's not picking a browser. Why? It should pick a browser. Mm, okay, I don't know, it's not picking the browser, but nonetheless, I can come to where the file has been stored, which is here, and I just double click on it. Then now here I can start testing it. So you can see now it's well, even here it won't work. Even here it won't work. So what I need to do is to just say localhost because this is a PHP application and PHP is the server that I'm actually working on, then I'll go inside Expedia, then I'll open the file called country.html, something like that. So localhost, it means I am executing PHP. That's why, well, it's, is it can Expedia is Expedia. Localhost Expedia. This is county. You can see I misspelled it. Instead of writing country, I wrote county. So I might need to correct the name of this. So that's country. Then try again. Country comes. So when I click add, that validation works. I say Kenya. I know Kenya exists. I say save. You can see, sorry, an error occurred. That's not the kind of error I expected, but nonetheless, let's see what it's all about. So you can right click on this. Let me just maximize this. Um, so you can right click on this, say inspect, and this is how you're going to be debugging. Then you'll come to network over here, then just click on save. You click on this and see what change it does. So it is not returning anything. Why is that? The payload, we said its country ID is 0 and country name is Kenya. But you also told it it is country operations. What we didn't tell it is what operation to perform. So we needed to tell it what operation to perform, which is save country. So I need to come back here and when I'm saving that data, the first thing I need to do is to say save country. Then I set that to true, something like that. Then I put a comma, of course. So save country means when I'm sending over this data, I'm telling it save country, this country ID, this country name. So that's why it was giving me that error. So I'll try again, and I'll try blank, not working. Try Kenya, say save. So it tells me, sorry. So you can see it's actually given me, this is actually the JSON object that I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it to give me this error. I was just expecting it to tell me, sorry, the country name exists. So where is the issue? I think the issue is it's not passing this JSON object nicely. This function is not passing this JSON object nicely. So is JSON, if that data is JSON object, so it means that this is actually returning false. But I know that it's actually a JSON object, so I don't know why this is returning false. Well, I think there is one that I wrote before called is JSON. I'll just pick it up from my previous application. It's called is JSON. So I'll just pick it from an older app. Well, I have some older apps here, so new window, yeah. So let me pick something like, I think I can have it here. So let me just locate it. It's JSON. Yeah, that looks okay. Actually, I think this is the correct one. This should be a good one because it will even check if it is not a string. Yeah, so this will be a good one. So I'll just replace this one with this one. So I will just check if this thing is a JSON object and it is not a string, then return it, return false, otherwise return true. So let's try that again. Refresh this page, add country, type Kenya, say save. So you can see the country already exists in the system. That's kind of like what I expected it to do. But if I type something like Ethiopia, then save, it tells me the country already exists. So I don't know, do I really have Ethiopia in the system? I can check actually the data that's been returned. So the country name already exists. So let me check. Ethiopia already exists in our database. So we come back to our database. It's called Expedia. EX. Expedia. Was it starting with an X? CIE. So we have countries here. Yeah, we have Ethiopia. So let's add South Africa. Save that. So the country has been saved successfully. So if I come back to my database, yeah, I can see South Africa. So that's kind of like how we add this data. Now you can see this is just a regular HTML file. My point is if I wanted to do Python, if I wanted to do React, if I wanted to do Angular, if I wanted to do a desktop application, whatever kind of application it is that I wanted to do, the only thing that is important is for me to be able to know how to call a REST API from that interface that I am dealing with. So it doesn't really matter which front end you are going to use to build your application. And you can really use anything to build this. Now, of course, moving forward, I just want to be able to show us how we can be able to populate this data that we have on this table over here. Then I think I can give you further tasks to be able to go and try and comprehend how this works out. Now, the only challenge I have here is I have the country name. I don't know cities, airport, and airlines as far as the country is concerned. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to figure out how that works out. So probably I'm going to advance my query that filters the countries so that now it is able to get me these other details so that now I can be able to get them and feed them in from and feed them on the table over here. Okay, let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to where I'm filtering my countries. I'm getting my countries. Then I'll add other parameters. So this will get me all the details of the country. Then I'll add other parameters like count. So cities, airport, airlines. So I'll say get count cities, count airports, count airlines. So this is where subqueries come in. So to count cities, I'm going to say something like put a comma here, and I'm going to say subquery select count. You can count in any field, so I count all fields from cities where country ID is equals to. Then I need to give this an alias C. So this one, okay, this maybe make it this one O, this one as O. So maybe if I write it like that, you're going to see it. Then this one as C. So I'll say C.country ID equals O.country ID. That will give me cities, but of course they might be none, so I'll simply use an if null value over here. So if the value returns null, just set it to 0. Then call that cities, like that. And that problem is solved. That should be able to give me cities. Then I'll come, if I want to get airports, I'll simply say select count all fields from airports where. Now you see the airport has a city, but now the city is a country. So I have to join two tables. So airports as A, then join cities as C on C dot city ID equals A dot city ID. Then of course where now C dot country ID is equals to now my O dot country ID, and that sorts out that problem. Of course, these are going to be airports, and of course, I'm expecting that there will be a likelihood that there is some that are missing. So I'm going to say if now, then convert that null to 0, like that. Then finally, I'll put a semicolon, a comma here rather. Then I'll come and try and get the countries, the airlines. So I'll simply say again, select count. So we're just counting all the airlines all fields from airlines where the country home country ID is equals to O dot country ID, like that. Then of course these ones are airlines. You can see when it comes to now writing these things um, independently, you can see now how the decoupling really helps. I don't need to tie a lot of logic as far as my PHP or my front end is concerned. Each and every part of the application does its own thing separately. So something like that. So that should be able to give me that. I'll execute that. If everything is fine, I should see success here. And if I pick get countries here and I run it like that, it tells me in unknown column a dot country ID. So I'll need to come here, a dot country ID. So this one is not a dot country ID, but rather o dot country ID. So sometimes you make such mistakes, they're allowed. You just need to come back and fix them. So now you can see I have at least Kenya has 4 cities, has 3 airports and 3 airlines. The rest, Uganda has only 1 city and none. So you can see I have already constructed the details that I want to be able to output on this window over here. So let's get the countries. Actually, we had already written the API for getting the countries. So we're just going to call it and use it to populate this table over here. So this is how we're going to achieve that. So what I could do here is because I will call that thing over and over again, I can come here and write a function and say, write me a function that gets cities, get countries as table. Because when I delete, when I update, when I do whatever, I'll need to repopulate this data. So I'm going to write it as a function. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say query dot get JSON. Get JSON is a jQuery method that gets you JSON objects from your server. Then you need to give it the URL. In my case, I'm going to go to controllers, then country operations dot php. Then from there, I'm going to tell it get countries because that is true. That's what I need. Then, of course, when it is successful, it's going to be dot done. It's going to be successful. So I'm going to run this callback function when it is done. And when it fails, I'm going to run this function. I need to tell you if it fails for one reason or another. Then when it fails, I'm also going to run this other function like that. Now, of course, when it fails, I'll get 3 things. First of all, I'll get the response. I'll also get the error, and of course, I'll get the status of the error. So when it fails, it's going to give me these 3 things: the response, the status, and the error. When it is successful, it's just going to give me some data. So if it is successful, it's going to give me some data. If it fails, it's going to give me these 3 things. So I just need to know what to do with these 3 things. So what I can do here is I can declare a variable called results and I assign it to blank. Then I loop through because this is going to be an array of objects. We've told to get a JSON object. They can be multiple elements. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say data dot for each. This is a JavaScript method looping through each object in JavaScript. And if you're going to use anything else like even Java or Node.js and all that, they're probably going to take the exact same shape. So I'll need to loop through each data object, each country. And the good thing with JavaScript, it will give me the index of the country that I'm working with. So I don't want to use an arrow function, so I'll just use a regular uh, anonymous function like that. So, sorry. Okay, yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. So just use a regular function. In practice, I use an anonymous function, but for this case, I just use a good old regular function. So what I'll simply say is results, and I'll put the table row here, and then I'll need to output. Now, if you look at this table over here, I'll have the number, which is the first column. The hash means number one, two, three, up to wherever you go. Then you have the country, the city, the airport, and the airline. So I just put them in that order: number, then country name, then like that. We go on and on. So since I'm outputting TR, then I'll put the TD. Then outside inside the TD, I'm going to put I plus 1, which is going to output number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then of course I'm going to copy this. I only need to create a row once, so I don't need to create a row again. I only need to create it once. Now the next one will be the country name. So I have country here. So I'll say country dot country name. Then I just copy this again. Sorry. And you can see I'm using template string because I want to incorporate this portion inside here. So I'll put country name. After country name, we have cities, airport, airlines. So I'll put here cities, then airports, then airlines. Then once I'm done, I can put an edit button there. So the edit button would be something like this. An anchor element that points to nowhere. But then I also put a font awesome icon with a class of font awesome solid, then font awesome edit, then font awesome large. Then I close that class, I close that icon, and I close that anchor. Then I close that table division, then I close that row, the row that I opened up here. Okay, so I'm closing that row here. So it will continue doing that and creating all the rows for me when inside. So once it is done, I also need to define the table. I forgot to define the table here. So let me say countries table, countries table, countries table. Then I'll pick by ID. I need to come here. Well, I don't have country anymore, so I can pick the country here, and I can come to the table. I didn't give the table an ID, so I need to give the table an ID. I'll say countries table. Just need to give it an ID like that. Then I place my cursor here. So I'll pick this countries table. Then I want to ingest that data inside this table body over here. So that data has to go inside here. So once I pick the countries table, I also need to identify this so that I can be able to output the data inside here. So I'll pick that countries table. I'll paste it here. Then I'll say once you're done with looping through all the records that you have returned, which is here. So here you're saying done with looping. Well, I needed to put like that. Done with looping through the data that is returned. So it will loop through all the data. There are 100, there are 1,000, there are 10,000, there are 3. It will just loop through until it is done. So once that is done, I'll simply say pick that countries table, then go and find T-body, and inside the T-body, the HTML of it, assign the results that I have just generated. So go into that table, find T-body, then whatever is in T-body, ingest whatever I have generated up here. Now this is important because every time I make changes to my to my table, I need to be able to update on the fly. So in the event that a problem occurred, then I might also need to tell you what has happened. So I can simply say here console.log sorry, an error occurred. Then I'll give the response, but because it's an object, I'll get the response text. Like that. But of course, sometimes I want to show it to you on the screen so that you're able to see what's happening. So I'll simply say country notifications. Country notifications equals country notifications, like that. Then I'll come to these countries here. Then not that, but this country here. Then just before this table, I'll create country notifications. like that. So this, whenever there's an error, I want to output it inside here. Okay, so I'll come here and I'll set these country notifications. So instead of just outputting it on the console, let me just mask that. I just output on the screen. So I'll say country notifications.html equals. Then I'll put here a div with a class of alert, alert. Well, div the class of alert, the alert, then alert danger. Then I'm going to output my data. I like using template strings so that they make it easier for me to ingest data. So I'll remove these square brackets. This is just how JavaScript works. And now I'm going to put my text here. That error that occurred, I'm going to put it up there in the event that it's not able to resolve it. So for some strange reason, whether I have put a wrong uh, ID or whatever it is, it's supposed to be able to now help me know what error is actually coming out. Then of course, this one, what I will do is every time a page loads, I will execute it. So here I'll say load, load existing countries. So after that, now every time I make changes, then I'll also refresh the page, refresh countries list. This is how you write an application. So I wrote it as a function because I just need to call the function name. It will go to that particular function and do everything for me. So I don't need to repeat myself over and over again. Again, we are learning how to write commercial or enterprise software, and this is actually how you get to achieve that. So we need to test it and see if it actually works. So I'll come here, I'll refresh. Yes,
Excuse me, sir.
go ahead.
I think on the country.js file,
Yes.
there are several instances you have misspelled countries. You have written counties.
I've written county. Okay. Actually, I've seen one because if you look at this data over here, now you can see I don't have airlines.
Yeah.
So airlines. Did I call it airlines or airline? Let's look at our query. It's actually airline. You see now, sometimes I also make mistakes. So I'll correct that. Well, I've made the mistake, but because the mistake is repetitive and it's a variable, it will not be, it will be masked in the background. Okay. So if I refresh this, now you can be able to see everything looks fine and I have my edit icon over here. So let's add another country here. Let's add Zambia and let's see if it is updating. You can see Zambia has been saved successfully and at the back I have added Zambia. Okay. So this is actually how you want to create your software. So you can see this is a regular old HTML document that I'm using to actually fetch data from my database using a REST API. And I'm actually able to create a new record. Of course, moving forward, we will edit and we will delete. And then, of course, we're going to add more and more operations as we move along. Are we together? I know that's quite a mouthful. Don't worry, the recording is here, and I'm hoping that it was actually recording. Yes, indeed, it was recording, so that is actually a very nice thing. So I will take a break at that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe when we meet next time, we can now add edit and delete. Then we can look at another example just to reinforce the element of how you create a decoupled software, but at the same time, you're putting all the things together to come up with your software. Now, you can see the good thing is, even if I decided to use something else on my front end, something like either Java or Python or even Android or whatever it is that I want to create. It does not matter what is running on my backend as far as the web server is concerned. And even if I wanted to change the database, it does not matter what is stored inside my database. Everything is decoupled, but they're also working together. All right. Yeah, this is a mouthful, and this is actually very good because now it starts showing us exactly how you put the nuts and bolts and pieces together. Are we together? Okay. Any questions up to that point? or comment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and now this is where Git now plays a very important role. So here I'll come and open Git, which means I'll click on Control and backtick on my keyboard. Then I will say Git add all the files that I made changes to. It's going to add all the files I made changes to. Then I'll say Git commit -m. Then I'll say added functionality for added user interface rather user inter okay setting up front end UI and added functionality for countries, something like that. Countries, oh my goodness, I'm very wrote with that. So I'll press enter. Then to be able to add everything else, then I'll just say git push, and it's going to push that for you. Now, in a few seconds, if you just say git pull, as you can see, it's adding all those files. If you just go to that repository and again say git pull, you'll get everything that I've made changes to exactly as I've made changes to it if you copied my repo path last time. Okay, so that should be able to tell you now this is actually how you would go about it, because as you make changes and you share them back and forth, then now you're able to actually get what is most up to date without necessarily copying and pasting or doing things like that. All right. Okay, so if there is no question and there's no comment, I think I will stop at that. Then probably maybe when we meet next time, we'll see how to go about editing and deleting and maybe say creating another component as we move along. So have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll meet again next time.